am never busy, as in I am never overbooked, overrushed, overhurried, over grumpy anymore because of busyness. This is why I made a promise to myself when I was 20 that I would never be that busy again. So here's the story. When I was in college, I was working, besides taking a full credit load, 18 hours, I was working 40 hours a week. On top of working 40 hours a week and taking a full credit load, I was also trained to maintain great grades. And I was also attending a Christian college where they had 3 hours of chapel that didn't even count as credit. And they also required that you be a part of ministry as part of your education. All of that to say, if I got 5 hours of sleep a night, it was shocking. So busy, so busy. And I remember sitting in one of those chapel services one time, and a preacher got up and he said this: if you college students think you're busy now, you just wait until you get out into the real world and you'll find out what busy is. And in that moment, I thought, that can't be right. That cannot be right. I am already barely making it through, putting a strain on my health. Fortunately, I had good health, but counting down, this is just for a season, 4 years, just for a season. After this, I'll have more control of my time. By the way, it never dawned on me to spread out my college education and ease the load a little bit. But that attitude that godliness is tied to our busyness, are you kidding me? I didn't even know the reasons why I knew that was wrong yet. But this is what the Holy Spirit does in our lives. It gives us promptings. He gives us promptings that can't be right. So here's why I'm never busy. I think, and by the way, I want to say I'm using a little bit of semantics. As in busy, I mean overhurried, overrushed, feeling like there is not enough time to do the things that I'm called to do. Feeling like there's not enough time for me to give to all of my priorities, give to all of my primary relationships. Feeling like there's a scarcity of time. Number one, that is the reason why I'm not busy, because I don't believe there's a scarcity of time. I believe that if we as Christians think that God has created us and created us on purpose and then created us with purpose and then called us to do something and then given us an assignment, but then does not actually give us enough time to do that assignment, that doesn't make sense to me. So anytime it feels like there's not enough time, I think, well, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Maybe I'm trying to do too much. Maybe I'm trying to do somebody else's work. Maybe I'm operating from a fear, like a fear of missing out or a fear of other people are watching and they're going to criticize that I'm not volunteering as much at church. There's some kind of fear locked in with that scarcity of time mindset, especially for us as Christians, is what I believe. I believe that if God is the creator of the universe, that God's intention is that we have enough time to do the things that He has given us to do. And because I believe that, then I look for solutions to solving time. So I look for ways to balance raising kids with the things that God puts in my heart to do, like raising kids, homeschooling, studying, playing the piano, volunteering at church. There were things that I definitely felt prompted to do, because there's a true enjoyment and desire to put time and effort into it. And I could always tell that there was a pile of things that I was saying yes to not because of what I thought between me and God, but because of something between me and other people. Like, oh, if I don't volunteer to host that baby shower, or if nobody volunteers, maybe I need to do it. Or if all the other women are running baby showers like this, maybe I need to put more work in. You see how there's the scarcity of time is coming from our fears and our inadequacies. This is why I love the verse about running our race with patience. Wherefore, seeing we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Why? Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is now set. Sorry, I faded off on the quoting of that. There are keys to eliminating busyness there. Number one, let go of perfection. Laying aside every weight, the desire that it's got to be perfect, desire of looking at somebody else, hey, I need to do it the way they do it. It needs to be just like this. Let aside the perfection. Let aside the sin. What's the sin that easily besets us and slows us down or stops us from taking action? I think it's the sin of doubt. When we don't know, we pause, we freeze, and everything takes longer. So even in the mundane things in our home, the perfectionism of, trying to, for me personally, that looked like trying to do my kids' birthday parties and make their own cake, and also go above and beyond in areas that I was not gifted at, because I felt like that's what a good mom would do. Now, that's totally different from the woman who enjoys making those creative acts, that God has gifted you in that way. We don't all have to be the Martha Stewarts, the Rachel Rays, the people that decorate the sugar cookies that I love watching the videos on Facebook about. When we're looking to others for how we're going to do our life, then we're not looking to God for what he has called us to do, and we're not looking to what he has gifted us in and strengthened us in. And so that is a huge contributing factor to our busyness, because we're trying to do all the things instead of focusing on what's in our lane, what we're called to do. And then, even when we're called to do it, then we get stuck in perfectionism or doubt. Like right now, I'm writing a book. It's taking longer than it probably needs to. Why? Perfectionism and doubt. I finally released a chapter, and somebody very kindly was sharing their thoughts with me and said, and of course, I'm sure you're going to, have it edited, before you, get it published. And I'm like, yes. And also, there was a small part of me that was like, I should have edited it better, this pre-chapter. Oh my gosh, how terrible am I? But I had to remind myself, let go of perfectionism. Let go of doubt. Let go of perfectionism. Let go of doubt. Cultivate patience. We've got to run our own race with patience. So I'm never busy. Here's why. Number one, I made myself a promise when I was 20 years old. And I realized that busyness, excessive busyness, the type that has us feeling like we can't do the things that we're called to do or can't do them in the way that we just feel like we're falling short constantly. That's not coming from God. That's coming from the enemy. That's coming from scarcity. That's coming from pressure for us to do things other people's way, coming from fear too. And then here's the deal. When you're busy, when I was busy, every time I remembered this. The first time you do it takes the longest. Then you find better ways to do it. So that is why 20 years into this journey, 26, almost 27, because I made that promise when I was 20, I just took a trip to my parents, and I was gone for a week, did hardly anything. I wrote a couple posts, just visited my family, hung out with my gram, did nothing. And I was, getting ready to come back, and I realized I'm not coming back to busy either. How in the world can that be? And it's because I've learned a thing or two, because I have practiced a thing or two. You know, that farmer's insurance commercial. We farmers know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Doot doot. This is something that we can just get better and better at. First of all, I learned how to create a home that took care of itself. I learned how to train my kids. By the way, training your kids to do laundry will always take longer than just doing it yourself. Training your kids to fold laundry will always take longer than folding it yourself. But we're looking big picture here. When they're trained, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Might have to remind them, but that's not a big deal. And then, I worked on that area. And then I learned key lessons, by the way, in what it takes to train and manage others. Key lessons that help me now when I consult in my husband's business for service-based business owners, and they're struggling with hiring people. And they're like, I told them to do this and they didn't do it. What gives? And I'm like, it's just a training thing. Don't you have kids? Didn't you learn how to train? Busyness is not a default state of being. Busyness is not something that's just going to change on its own in the next season. Busyness is something that will always invite itself in until we learn how to prevent it. So there's the mindset that we have to prevent busyness. So that would be, for example, not seeing time as a scarcity thing, but as an abundance thing. If God gave us something to do, then wouldn't it make sense that He would give us enough time to do it? Think about that. And then once we have our mindset around time then we've got tools that we can use to manage our time better, like not miss appointments and schedule things, automate bill pay. That's amazing. That'll save so much time. And then we have skills that we have to develop that will save us time. We have to learn how to do the thing, and it takes time. And then we learn how to do it better, and then we learn how to do it faster. And then we have assets that we can create that give us our time back. For example, on the high end of this, there would be like passive income assets that you create. So, busyness. Don't take busyness as a signal that, like that preacher was trying to preach to me, that busyness is that you're godly if you're busy. That's terrible. That is a terrible lesson. That is not true. You might be godly and you might be busy, but one is not a guarantee of the other. Don't think that busyness is a default state for women, for moms, for Christians. Don't think that busyness is also going to go away on its own. It's not. You're going to have to solve for it. Which, speaking of that, I am actually planning to do pretty soon a break free from busy challenge. So if that sounds interesting, make sure that you're on my email list, or go to aprilbragg.com and make sure you scroll down to the bottom of that page and get on my email list. And I will be sharing the details of that. But break free from busy, how we can just end this, how we can use our time to buy back our time, basically, forever. Like, give me an hour, I'll give you back 2. But then you'll have those 2 hours all the time. I'm going to be sharing all of those tips. But I wanted you to understand that if you'll just start questioning, why am I busy? And is there something I can do about it? And what if this is not the default state? What if this is not the way that we're all supposed to be? What if what if this is not proving my godliness? I just decided long ago, I'm never going to be as busy as I was in college. And now, 20 years later, I found out that it goes even further than that. I'm never busy. I remember, this is probably 8 years ago. My mother-in-law says, I know you're busy, and I said, wait, I'm never busy. I'm never too busy for you, but I'm never busy because I've solved for it. So here, let me just give you a quick overview, because we do have a couple minutes left on this podcast, of how you can solve for busy. Get clear on your purpose, get clear on your priorities, get clear on your values. Okay. Once you have clarity about all those three things, then you will be so much more confident about what you say yes and no to. And then here's one more freebie. Everything that you say yes to, you need to also say no to something else. That is the one in, one out principle. How do you make sure that your closet is never overfull? As you buy something, you get rid of something. How do you make sure your house is never overfull? As you buy something, you get rid of something. How do you make sure that your schedule is not overfull? As you say yes to something, you say no to something. That's hard. That's hard, but that's how we avoid busyness. So, if this topic interests you, I'd like to know. So make sure that you comment, share, send me a message. If you'd like to know about that challenge coming up, then go to aprilbragg.com and sign up on my newsletter. I will be sharing the details there. And also bonus, I send out an email once a week and you get notified of any podcasts or videos that I've done. So anyway, I'm never busy. Tell me where you're struggling, if you're struggling with busyness, and I will be glad to share some very more specific tips for you to help you with yours, because I just don't think that our default stage should be busyness. I don't think that we do our best work in busyness. I know that when I was busy, I was also kind of hurried and rushed and impatient and not as considerate and not as kind with my words. That might be putting it mildly. So I'm telling y'all, busyness, let's not accept it as a default state. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.